The freehold and leasehold debate. Actually, I feel like this topic can be quite shallow because there's not much context given based on how the product looks, the layout, the land size, the price. There's really so much more to it, no? For starters, I always believe that those on the freehold camp will always think that in a market we are in now where there's so many government land sales and leasehold properties, the percentage of freehold properties is just going to get lesser and lesser as Singapore no longer sells freehold land. Then when that's the case, the lack of freehold properties will only mean that it is more important so to own a freehold property. That's actually a very good point to look at. And you realize this one thing, somehow it's like a cultural thing instilled into the older generations. I think because back then when most houses are freehold and the idea of owning a leasehold somehow scares them until now. Like Malaysia, where almost every land is off freehold status, then buying a leasehold really doesn't make sense. But what if Singapore becomes a country with majority of properties being leasehold status? Since there's no more freehold land being sold and government land sales are all leasehold, isn't the percentage of leasehold versus freehold properties going to be more disproportionate? That's what the argument will come from the leasehold camp. And this is something I'm leaning more towards because I noticed that the modern generation of buyers are no longer fixated so much on tenures. Instead, they are more particular about what they can see, what they can feel, and what they can pay. And since the newer generations are going to be less adverse against owning a leasehold property, then buying a freehold property will no longer hold any obvious advantage now that most people are so used to leasehold properties. Wow, I didn't realize I blabbered so much already. So freehold or leasehold better? My answer is down to two things: price and your investment horizon. But before I talk about price, let's talk about investment horizon. Now, let me help you put this debate into simpler context. It is like the tortoise and hare race. The thought process of freehold fanatics buying only freehold is like buying into a blue chip stock. Super safe, with guaranteed choice, like a form of insurance, low risk. So when they buy, they tend to pay a premium to it. And when you pay a premium to something, what happens? It just means that your gains is going to be there, but you'll likely take a longer time frame to see solid returns. And one thing I can comment is, for those who buy the freehold properties, usually tend to buy it for estate legacy planning purposes and tend to have deeper pockets and holding powers. And somehow or other, they don't look at the short term, they always hold for long. And I call this the tortoise. Slowly but steady, it will win you the day on the longer run. Now, the hare, on the other hand, is the leasehold properties. On the market uptrend, you will likely see stronger gains on the shorter term for them. Then they will halfway punch it or lose steam, and then the line flattens. So like the hare, it sprints faster at the beginning, then slows down at a much slower pace. Don't believe me? I'll show you an example. Remember the multi-modern at Rio Valley that people were talking about many years ago? That the leasehold will make more money than the freehold? Let's look at that. In the short span of 3 to 5 years, that is true. They tend to make more money. But notice the annualized returns. They tend to be higher in the first few years and then slowly comes down to probably the levels you will see typically for freehold. On the other hand, we look at the numbers for Rivergate. The gains are solid, but notice the holding periods are much longer. So, the shorter it is, the lesser the gains. And the longer it is, the better it is. Let's look at another example at Mayor Rise along Mayor Road. Freehold, prime location, launched in 2012. Same thing here. Notice the shorter the holding period, the likely the gains are on the lower end. The longer it is you hold, the better it is. How about a more recent example? As you guys know that most of the leasehold launches during COVID like Jadescape, Park Clementi's makes averagely 5 to 800k for the 3 bedrooms. Amber Park, on the other hand, launched in 2019, freehold, same thing, District 15, MRT doorstep, holds for 5 years and doesn't make as much as the leasehold ones. Does it make Amber Park any worse? Nope, because the price point was much higher back then due to the premium of it being a freehold. Down the road, when things becomes more and more expensive, you will see Amber Park performing better. And yes, price does matter. There's a price to everything, whether is it freehold, leasehold, core central region, outside core central region, RCR, anything at all, price matters. I always like to give this example of two Bukit Timah properties side by side. One is the freehold Duchess Residences and the other is the leasehold Duchess Crest. Both with almost same attributes, but Duchess Crest is actually 13 years old older. Now, a quick look at the prices in 2011 was that Duchess Residences was averaging about 1,900 per square foot, while the Duchess Crest was about 1,200 per square foot, which is only about 60% of Duchess Resi price. Now that's a huge price gap. When the gap is so big, either the Judges Crest was too low or the Judges Residences was too expensive. And 1,009 per square foot for a property in 2011 is not cheap. So fast forward 12 years later, Judges Residences is now hovering around 2,150 per square foot, which is approximately 15% higher, while Judges Crest is touching 1,800 per square foot, a 50% jump. You see what I mean? If we were to evaluate on which one has more potential now, since what happens in the past stays in the past as a learning experience, if Judges Crest continues to rise about 1,009 per square foot and Judges Residences stays at around 2,150 per square foot with a gap about 250 per square foot, then you are better off buying the freehold Judges Residences. So price is everything. Same thing applies to freehold landed. My advice to landed buyers is a little bit different. If given a choice, please buy only freehold and avoid clusters also, unless you're priced out. Now, when you're priced out of the freehold, then the leasehold landed price has to be compelling enough for it to have potential. In one of my videos where I have the link in description, I brought up the case of leasehold landed in the Woodlands and Loyang area costing around $2 million. I do personally see upside for those if you can get it at around that range. Why? Because the price is only 50% of what the freehold ones are. When the gap is so wide, it's basically buying to the lowest entry level into the landed segment, and it's like buying low and selling low in the future. Your next group of buyers will almost definitely be those who can't afford the freehold ones. It is the same. Hence, from my years of analyzing data and trends, because of the premium you pay upfront for a freehold property, the investment horizon tends to be longer. Anywhere between 5 to 10 years would be the average holding period to really see solid gains. Now, if you plan to rinse and repeat every 3 years, then picking a leasehold property should suit you better. Besides the example I shared, as per above, I still have a long list to share. Okay, but in actual terms, it really is not just about whether a certain freehold is better or a certain leasehold is. In today's market, it's really more about the quality of the development, the layout, the land size, the facing, the exit strategy, and of course, the price. Otherwise, why do you think the leasehold properties Silver Sea at Parkway will perform better than the freehold properties just beside in the Cape and Aristo at Amber? Or why will the 41 years old leasehold, the Arcadia, make more than any of the freehold plots at the Shelford and Adam Road cluster?